The motive for human replication. For entire decades, the few adventurous scholars who dared to investigate beyond the limits of the first dome had heard fragmented and disconnected accounts of a place called Lands of the Clones, also mentioned in some ancient texts of Shaky as Second Earth. For the new humanity, the humanity born after the reset of 1728, this designation meant absolutely nothing. It was merely a story, something that failed to evoke concrete images because the custodians had ensured that every memory related to that territory was amputated. However, among the writings hidden in the underground temples of Great Tartaria and in the remnants of database records recovered by the Anakim from custodial tunnels, there were clear references. Second Earth was not a metaphor, nor a mystical vision, nor a manipulated astronomical symbol, but a real land, a physical territory, hidden beyond the frozen walls. Second Earth is described as an altered copy of the known lands, a territory where the custodians experimented with the duplication of human lineages, the artificial reproduction of complete organisms, and above all, with the creation of clones that imitated entire civilizations destroyed before the Great Reset. They were not simple biological copies, for some ancestral documents insist that each replicated individual had been programmed with implanted memories, predefined behaviors, selected ideologies, and an absolute level of obedience. The clones did not know they were clones. Instead, they believed they had been born there, believed they possessed lineages, families, and traditions, like any other being born beneath the Great Dome. Human ancestrals and those who surrounded the giant human Shiki suspected that the purpose of Second Earth was to serve as a laboratory of social simulation, a model through which the custodians could predict human behavior in different scenarios of conflict or spiritual ascent, another way of controlling future lines of possible outcomes. For this reason, this world is known as the predecessor of what are now called the lands of Mars. The humanity that inhabited that territory lived beneath a different sky, a sky without stars, without projections of invented constellations, because the invisible dome that covered those lands did not project the same narrative as the one currently imposed over the known lands. It is said then that this new system of false skies began to be installed there, or rather reproduced, along with the narrative of distance, oblivion, and human insignificance. There, the projection was fainter, simpler, more direct, a mere glow that imitated diffuse light, sufficient to maintain the illusion of continuity, but without the complex symbolic engineering the custodians later used to control post-1728 humanity. Ancient documents speak of Second Earth as an imperfect mirror. It was the same, yet it was not. There were seas that imitated our own, but with altered chemical compositions, many of them later acquiring a completely red hue, mountains that reproduced ancient mountain ranges already erased from the historical record, and cities that emulated architectural styles of earlier humanities, yet without the soul inherent to original creation. Everything there carried a subtle taste of imitation, of a world constructed with the urgency of an engineer attempting to replicate what had been destroyed, without truly understanding why it had been beautiful or sacred in the first place, Something similar occurred in our own lands after 1728, with the ancient temples and creations of the giants of the forgotten Great Tartaria. For those who managed to cross the outer walls and behold its lands, the sensation was always described in the same way. It is like walking through a dream that is not yours, yet it continues. The custodians never mentioned Second Earth in any of their official narratives. They rendered it invisible. They erased it from the stories. They concealed it behind the pseudo-scientific language with which they sought to explain the existence of other planets within a supposed empty universe devoid of walls. I refer to the spheres they claim float in the invented outer space. Modern humanity was programmed to look upward toward the false sky and never outward toward the forbidden regions where entire realities continued to function as hidden gears within a greater machinery. The name Lands of the Clones persisted only in forbidden manuscripts. In databases and tablets the custodians failed to destroy, and in the memory of certain ancestrals who, before the reset, had witnessed firsthand how those replicated cities were raised under hidden dominion, beyond the third circle, toward the absolute exterior. This creation, then, was in essence the most direct reminder that humanity had not only been modified, but in some manner duplicated, tested, observed, molded. There, the custodians could rehearse the behavior of entire societies before manipulating the known lands we walk upon today. There, human obedience was studied, along with resilience, responses to artificial crises, reactions to false events, false wars, and false discourses of every kind. At that level, they now know us, but they possess very little knowledge of our true essence and our direct connection to the celestial lands, at least as far as is known to date. For many, it was yet another link between the original humanity destroyed before 1728 and the new humanity that now inhabits the first dome. And yet, the most unsettling element was not the existence of a replicated territory, but the question that echoed throughout every ancient archive. What happened to the clones when they realized they were not the true humanity?